All right, good morning, everybody. It's 10:01, so our official start time of 10 a.m. We can get things kicked off. I know people will still be coming in. We'll keep admitting people as they show up, but want to go ahead and get things kicked off. You should be coming into the room muted with no video, so don't sweat that. That's what we plan for. I'll be on the video for a little while. I should be down here in the corner of the presentation, so you should see me. If you have any issues hearing or seeing anything, just type a message into the chat pod, just to the general meeting, and myself and my coworkers will be keeping an eye on everything, so we'll be able to help you out if you have any trouble with that. Welcome to our webinar for about the new features of ncswlearn.org. We're excited to share that with you today, and I appreciate everybody being here. My name's Southey Blanton. I'm a systems technician for the Family and Children's Resource Program at UNC School of Social Work. I'll be your primary host today, taking you through the slides and telling you all about the features. I'll disappear off the screen eventually as we get a little bit more into some of the information about the features, but I just want to welcome everybody here. I appreciate everybody for joining us. I'm also joined by Crystalle Williams. She's the program manager for the staff development team at the North Carolina Division of Social Services and Child Welfare. She's one of our co-hosts. She's here to help out with any questions that come up that may be policy related, or if anything sort of above my expertise. She's be helping us out today. And we're also joined by Holly McNeill. She's a regional child welfare consultant with the North Carolina Division of Social Services and Child Welfare. So she'll be helping out as well if any questions come up. So they'll be my co-hosts for the day. But like I said, I'm Southey Blanton. I'll be your host for this morning. As people are coming in, we're going to use the chat pod. You can say hello, let us know what county you're representing, where you're from. The chat pod will be our main source of information for today. If you guys have any questions that come up, please feel free to send them in the chat pod. We'll have a Q&A session that we'll be able to address anything that comes up as we go through the presentation. So we'll go ahead and get started. Here we go. So just to let you know, this webinar was developed through funding from the Carolina Division of Social Services by FCRP, the Family and Children's Resource Program at UNC Chapel Hill. And a recording of this webinar is going to be available on the FCRP website. So for anyone that misses it, or if you know a coworker that signed up and then wasn't able to make it this morning, there will be a recording of the webinar placed on the website so they can review it and watch it and see everything they missed. This webinar has some pretty basic goals for today. You know, by the end of this webinar, we want you all to be aware of what access rights there are for users on NCSW Learn and what features come with those access rights. And we want to let you know about some new features that we've been rolling out, what their usage is, you know, how they can help you in your practice with your agency. And the main ones that they're going to be regarding today are adding non-DSS training to employees' attendance histories, bulk addition of trainings to help streamline adding trainings to your training attendance histories, and then also accessing and exporting aggregated training records. So tracking continuing education hours, training titles, and completion of courses and things like that. We hope that these new features can help aid in that process. Like I said, welcome everybody. Anyone who's coming in, you'll be coming in muted, coming in no video. You don't have to worry about mics or video today, which is kind of fantastic. Sometimes I know things can get a little bit hairy. If you have any issues or troubles, just type into the chat pod. Let us know if you have any trouble viewing anything, or if you have any trouble seeing or hearing me. Don't sweat that. We'll get to any messages that come up or any questions about any of the features. We'll be addressing those. We have a Q&A period right at the end of the presentation, so we'll be happy to address everything that comes up. So we'll keep going. So here we go. As you can see, I'll be your host today. My name's Southey Blanton. Some of you may have interacted with me through the help desk at NCSW Learn. That's my primary position within FCRP. I handle most of the help desk contacts. You'll also notice that the pandemic non-haircut has occurred on my end. The picture's a little old. I'll be your host for today, along with my co-host Crystalle Williams and Holly McNeill. I appreciate them joining us today. They'll be helping with any policy-related questions or anything that comes up. If you have any questions for them, feel free to put them in the chat pod. They'll be helping out with the Q&A section at the end of the presentation. Also got some support from my fellow team members at FCRP. Philip Armfield, Brian Burbank, Vilma Jimenez, and Kay McLennan are all in the meeting as well today. So they'll be helping out. I know some of you may have worked with them in the past or been in contact with them as well. They've helped out on the help desk in the past, and I know they're part of the team with me at FCRP. So like I said, about questions, we're going to be monitoring them the whole presentation. Just put them in the chat pod. We'll accumulate them all, and then we'll have them at the end for the Q&A. And also, just to reiterate, we'll be recording today's webinar, and that'll be up on the Family and Children's Resource Program web page. So for anybody that misses anything, or if you need to review it, or if you have a coworker that wants to check it out and wasn't able to make it today, they'll be able to view that on the website. And the chat pod, this is just to reiterate, use the chat pod if you need to communicate with us. You don't have to worry about the mics or the video. If you need to, for example, chat with one of our specific hosts, if you need to let me know something or let one of my co-hosts know that you're going to be stepping away or you aren't able to finish the webinar, or maybe something comes up, you can use the small drop-down menu to simply click there. That gives you the option to chat with myself or any of the co-hosts or any of the attendees in the meeting. So the main purpose of this webinar is to let you all know about features that have come with the upgrading of NCSW Learn. Just a sort of overview of what we've been doing in regards to the upgrade of NCSW Learn. The first one is a technology upgrade. There's a lot of behind the scenes programming software and applications that run the site on a daily basis. So one of our primary jobs right now has been to update the background processes, programs, and applications to make sure that any new features that we come up with or implement function properly. So over the last few months, that's been a primary objective, is to get the technology up to speed so that everything's updated. That helps with security, speed, and reliability of the site. You may notice the small image on your screen of the logo. There's going to be a look and feel change to the site as we upgrade. Color schemes, fonts, look, responsiveness. The entire site, you'll notice through this webinar, you're going to see the current NCSW Learn, and you're going to see a taste of the newer upgraded NCSW Learn. It'll simply have a newer look and feel from the older site. Levels of users is something that we've been examining. There are lots of different users that use NCSW Learn every day, from the basic, what we call PLP user, which could just be someone in your agency taking a training, taking an assessment training, or taking pre-service, all the way up to members of the Division of Social Services. And all of those users have different access rights, and all of them have different things that they need to be able to see or interact with. So one of our primary objectives has been to pinpoint what users need, what new users could we add, what new features do users at different levels need. So we've been focusing on that. One of them that we've added recently is the Regional Child Welfare Consultant, which is what Holly McNeill is. Some of you in this webinar today may be a RCWC. You've got different access rights and access to certain reports and records and things like that to help you in your job position. So that's one thing we've been working on. The whole deployment, we have the note here for phase deployment, it's been a phase deployment. It's coming in chunks. It's a process where, like I said, we update the background applications and programming. We take a look at what users need and don't need, and then we sort of implement things in phases. So soft rollouts of features and slow introductions of things to make sure that they work at first. Then we introduce it to a small pool of users, and then we're able to share it with the general public. So that's the idea of a phase deployment. So we have a plan, and things are moving forward, and it's got steps to make sure that everything works for you all. Then we've got our upcoming and improved features. So to give you guys a list of what we're looking at and what we're planning for the future is the idea of streamlining the registration process. We've gotten feedback from you all that the registration process sometimes can feel a little arduous, or it has steps that maybe you don't like. And what we're doing is we're trying to improve the registration process across the board, not only for users, but for registrars and trainers as well. We're trying to make the site more user-friendly via notifications. we send lots of emails and confirmation letters and things like that. So we'd like to implement additional steps, perhaps notifications within the website. So when you come to NCSW Learn, you know that you've been enrolled in a training, or you get a notification that you have a class coming up, things like that. So the idea is to hopefully give you more information in the site, to make it more navigable, to make it a little bit more informative, and to keep you on top of things so you know when trainings are coming up, things like that. So notifications within the website about waiting list, enrollment, registration, course cancellations, all that are things that we're trying to develop for everyone. And then also a more user-friendly search for trainings. We know that sometimes looking for trainings based on your job responsibilities has been a problem for some people, and we've gotten feedback. So one of the ideas and one of the goals we have is to help make searching for trainings a little bit smoother by tying the search to your job responsibilities. So if you tell us in the system what your job responsibilities are and keep those up to date and accurate, the system will then be able to provide you with a more accurate list of trainings when you go to search for what's open and available. So that's just sort of a general overview of what we're trying to do at NCSW Learn with the upgrade. Everything from the back-end processes and the motor that drives the site through a phased deployment that's smooth and planned out and works at every step of the way. And then with upcoming features and things that we hope will make the site more responsive, more helpful, and easier for everyone to use, because training's important, and us providing it is our #1 priority. So that's the idea behind the upgrade of NCSW Learn. So the two new features that I'm really going to go over today with this webinar, with the upgrade of NCSW Learn, are the non-NCDSS training entry. This is going to be an entry that you can use for individual employees or bulk entry. So we're going to go over both of those and let you know how that functions, allowing you to enter training directly into your workers' records to ensure that their continuing ed hours are up to date, and that any training they take outside. So anything that's outside the NCSW realm can be entered easily by you. The other feature we have is the aggregated training records. Those are records that actually function, but there's 3 different reports that can be run. So I'll give you an overview of all 3 of those reports and give you a little bit of information on what data and info you can pull with those 3 reports, so that they can help you keep up to date on training for your county and for your individual employees if you're a supervisor. So that's going to be the meat of this webinar today. So I'm getting ready to disappear. I appreciate you letting me be down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen for a little while. Like I said, anyone who's come in during the beginning of the webinar, you should come in muted. You should come in no video. You don't have to worry about that. Use the chat pod if you'd like. If you've got any messages you need or any questions that come up at any point during the presentation, use the chat pod to enter that information in there. We'll be keeping track of any questions and addressing those at the end of the presentation. I appreciate everybody joining us this morning, and I'll get started with going through the new features of NCSW Learn. All right, so everyone should be seeing right now a home page, and if you've used NCSW Learn, you should be pretty familiar with this home page. This is the page that you're going to see on a daily basis. I won't spend too much time on this. Just wanted to make everyone just aware of this. Is NCSW Learn. This is our homepage. This is where you go to log in. Or if you're a new hire or you have a new worker that you'll be supervising, this is where they could go to create a user account and enter their information. As I was talking about a little bit earlier, with regard to roles and access rights and things that we've been looking at when upgrading the site, there are different roles and access that you have in NCSW Learn. Now, each of those gives you a little bit different view of a menu and a little bit different options to work with. So I was just going to go over a quick overview of those. Supervisors in NCSW Learn are able to view the employees that they directly supervise. So if you are linked to one of your employees. If they have you chosen from the drop-down menu on their personnel record as their supervisor, then anything you look at, any records and training attendance for them is available to you. So your direct supervisees are the ones that you can see in NCSW Learn. County training managers, or what sometimes we refer to as CTMs, are a different role and access right. County training managers are able to view all the county DSS workers for their agency. And you're going to be able to view both child welfare and adult services. Right now in the system, in NCSW Learn, we have 73 county training managers representing 48 counties. Sometimes we've noticed that some agencies or some counties actually call what we call a county training manager a training coordinator. Sometimes they could be, I think one might have been trying to think what the title was, a CQI training administrator. Sometimes they could simply be called a training monitor. So your county may have its own vocabulary for this role. But the idea behind this role is this person is able to view all the workers in the agency. They're able to view all of their training attendance histories. They're able to enroll them in training if they need to. And it's going to be able to view all child welfare and adult services. And this is a role that's open to anyone in NCSW Learn with permission from your county director. So, for example, after this webinar, if you feel like you in your role in your county would fit this description, or if you're a director and you think, I have an employee that I think would be perfect for this role to oversee training and be able to view everyone in the agency, you can contact the help desk, contact NCSW Learn and myself, and we can give you the information about going ahead and updating the access rights to make one of your employees the county training manager in the system and to give them that open access. Now, the regional child welfare consultants, as I was talking about, that's a new role that we've established within the system. And they are able to see all county DSS workers for all 100 counties. So through reporting features in the new aggregated records, they're going to be able to pull up information and look at all 100 counties and all the workers, both child welfare and adult services, to be able to look at records for those workers. Over on the right-hand side of this slide, just to give you guys an idea, the top image is just a quick screenshot of if you're a supervisor in NCSW Learn and that's your access rights, that's typically what your menu on the left-hand side is going to be. For county training managers, if you get those access rights, it bumps you up and you get that additional county training manager resources. For the regional child welfare consultants, we don't have an additional box that pops up. You just have the same, you just have larger access once you go into the reporting features. But that's just to give you all that. I see in the chat pod someone had a question real quick about, can a county have more than one CTM? Yes. The system we had originally set up was ideally for 2. The information we had gotten from some counties is that typically they had about 2, but multiple CTMs are available, so you're able to set that up. Let's see, program managers. I see we have a question from Javetta. Let's see, the program manager is able to have access for their area. I think we'd have to address for that one. I think we just need to know which area you would oversee, Javetta, and then we'd have to look and see, because I know with county training managers, it's for the entire county. So compartmentalizing it isn't something we have set up right now, but I'd be happy to look a little bit more into it or see which area you're speaking about, and we could look at that for you. I'll make a note of that too for the Q&A section so I can get some more information for you. But that's the roles and access. Yep, and who you should contact, you can contact me. You can contact the help desk at NCSW Learn. So we have a help desk link there on NCSW Learn. It'll go straight to NCSW Learn at unc.edu, and we can help you out. So just contacting the help desk, and then we can give you all the instructions that you need to get access as a county training manager. All right, so before using these new features, just wanted to give you guys an idea of making sure your data is up to date. Many of you as supervisors, or if you've already been a county training manager, you're familiar with this page, but this is the employee management page that lists what employees are linked to you. As a supervisor, this would be people linked to you as your direct supervisee. As a county training manager, you should ideally see all DSS agency employees, child welfare and adult, that should be linked to your county. This example here has got, I made myself supervisor for my coworkers so I could give you guys a screenshot idea of what that's supposed to look like. But here's where the first step before we use any of the new features, ideally you want to make sure that your employee management list is up to date and that you make sure you have any employees that have left your agency removed from the list, or any employees that need to be on the list added. That way, once you go into the new features, as you run reports and add training, you're able to do it accurately and up to date with a roster of people that should be connected to you. So moving on to the new features, their location, to let you know where to find them. For supervisors and CTMs, they're going to be underneath the employee training attendance history. So this is where you would normally go to select from the drop down an individual employee and look at their training history. Now you'll see these two new icons with our newly designed logo. Like I was talking about the updates to look and feel of the site. This is where you're going to find both the aggregated training records button and the add non-Ncdss training. So it's under employee training attendance history. So I'll start out going through the adding non-DSS training to your employees' records. This feature, like I said, allows you to add training that's outside of the realm of NCSW Learn. If your employee goes and registers for pre-service and takes pre-service through NCSW Learn and then completes it, the registrar and trainer mark them as completed. It's added to their record and is permanently stored in our database, and that's all done within NCSW Learn. But sometimes trainings are taken outside of the realm of NCSW Learn. Perhaps an outside trainer or another company could come to your agency and offer a training on critical thinking, and you might sign off on that training, and it's 3 contact hours, and a lot of your employees want to take it, but how do we get it into their training record to make sure we keep track of those hours? So this tool was designed to make it quicker and easier to add that training into the website. The example you'll see on screen, I'm using my coworkers as well, is I've selected Brian, Philip, and Vilma, and they're going to be taking a critical training course from Leslie Smart Teacher from Worker Wellness LCC. They took it in Wrightsville Beach, which is kind of nice. We got to go to the beach, put their feet in the sand during the lunch break, and they got 3 contact hours for that training. The purpose of this tool is to make sure that if your employees within your county or employees that you supervise take training, you can add in bulk all at one time the exact same training. So for this example, 3 of my employees took that training. I'm going to put in all the training information as well as the contact hours, and then I'm going to click Add Training. You'll see in the instructions there's a control click to select multiple. So you'll simply hold down the control key on your keyboard and you can click and add as many employees as you like. If you're a county training manager and over 3 days there were 85 employees in your agency that took a training, you can enter that information, go through and click every single person who was in attendance, and then click Add Training, and it'll be added in bulk to all of those workers' training histories. A little bit of information about the tool itself. Like I said, it can be added one at a time, but this one's designed to really help add things in bulk and make it quicker. The trainings entered that meet the definition of continuing ed can be applied to the 24 hours of continuing education required annually for workers, but it needs to be approved by your supervisor as training or undergraduate, graduate social work that teach knowledge and skills that improve social work practice. So it's up to supervisors and it's up to your agency whether or not, if you have a training you took outside the office and you'd like to enter it in, it's always important to run that by your direct supervisor or your director and let them know about it and make sure it's appropriate to add to your training attendance history. So it's agency discretion of what trainings that happen outside of NCSW Learn that can get entered, but it should allow you to add them in bulk and add them quickly. And then it'll add that to the training attendance history and be visible for all the employees that you entered it for. This explanation and all this information is available on the page. So if you go to the tools page, click the explain this link, you can get this little bit of information if you're on the fence about whether or not this training would be appropriate. So once you add it, you get the training was successfully submitted information on screen. So that's how you know that it's gone through and been added to all the employees that you clicked. So that critical thinking training has been added to my employees' training history and to their continuing education hour totals. So that was the adding non-DSS training tool. It's a quick tool, but I think we wanted to start with it because it's one that should hopefully cut down on a lot of time and provide a little bit more accuracy for you all in training and adding training for employees. I know that sometimes after a training in-house or something that's not in NCSW Learn, you may have workers that you remind to go enter it and to let them know that, you know, it's up to them on an individual basis, as it once was, to go add that to their training attendance history. And just to ensure things happen, you can do it now on your own in bulk. So instead of reminding 15 employees to make sure they go enter their training information, you can add all 15 at the exact same time with the exact same information. That way the course titles, contact hours, locations, and providers and everything match up correctly. I see one question about certificates. So right now we don't have any certificate uploading for the non-DSS training. You'll be able to add the contact hours and information, but for example, with certificates and things, if there are certificates administered from the training that you're entering, we would just let you know that you would need to make sure the employees or their supervisor hold on to the copies of those, because right now we don't have any implementation for uploading the certificates in as well. Let's see. So that's our add non-NCDSS training feature. The other feature that we've implemented and the other button that's available to you all is the aggregated training records. Now, this aggregated training records tool is a pretty robust tool for running reports and getting data and information. This is the page you'll see when you first click on that button. It's got the new feel, the new fonts, the new logo. And this is where you're going to sort of start things off whenever you need to run reports and generate reports about training records for your employees or employees in your county. A little bit of information behind the 3 types of reports that we have that you can run. There are, like I said, there are 3. The first is the aggregate contact hours. So this is going to include data pertaining to NCDSS sponsored child welfare training attended by all employees. So this is going to include adult services and child welfare workers. It also includes the training entered in the system by employees themselves, which is not sponsored by NCDSS or DAAS. So if we just use that adding non-DSS training tool to add some training to my employees, that's going to get uploaded. And when I run that aggregate contact hours, that'll be included in the report when you run it. The second report you can run is called the events offered by the NCDSS. This one is a little bit special because it does not include online on-demand courses, which are the courses offered through NCSW Learn that don't require registration. Those are the courses that your employees can take online on demand the minute they have an account that's open and active on NCSW Learn. One of the courses, for example, is foster home licensing or money matters or type courses like that, working safe, working smart. Those are courses that won't show up in the events offered by the NCDSS report because they don't require registration and are available all day, 7 days a week. So they're not considered in the system an event. See, Pam had a question just about getting to the report page. For the report page, you're going to go to the employee training attendance history, Pam. And once you're on employee training attendance history, those 2 buttons, one for the aggregated reports and then one for the add non-DSS training, will be there underneath the drop-down menu where you would select an employee. Our third report that we have is the training titles. So that includes data pertaining to all employees, adult and child welfare, and all training entered. So DSS sponsored and non-DSS. And all of the data in these reports includes information about workers who may no longer be employed at your agency. So that's why at the beginning I mentioned updating your employee management list, whether it's your direct supervisees or the employees in your county, to make sure anyone who's not with your agency anymore is removed, or anyone who's with your agency and needs to be there gets added, is important, because it's going to be pulling data from employees at your agency that the system thinks is still there. So if your employee management lists are up to date, the data you pull with your records and reports will be up to date. And this is available to you as well under the Explain This link on the report page. So if you're getting ready to run a report and you want to double check and you say, I need to run records on everyone's contact hours, which one was the one that didn't include online on demand? You can click here, get a little bit more info. So aggregate contact hours and training titles includes all trainings. The events offered by the Ncdss is the only one that doesn't include the online on demand. So here's an example for the aggregate contact hours, the first one that we mentioned. I've run this report just for an example. I ran it from January 1st, 2021 to June 21st, 2021. I used my co-host, Crystalle. I used her information to run this report. I've wiped out the first and last names. I don't want to put anybody on blast about how many hours they have for this chunk of time. So I've removed those, but just to let you know, that blank space will include first name and last name for each of the employees. It'll include the supervisor. So if this is a supervisor running it, ideally you're going to pull your list and you're going to see your name next to everything. For county training managers, for example, or for the regional child welfare consultants, you're going to see more information because you may see multiple supervisors because you're going to be pulling from the entire county. We're going to have sponsored and non-sponsored hours of training and then a total there. So the aggregate contact hours is going to basically give you a quick look at everyone's sponsored hours they've taken, non-sponsored hours, and then their total for whatever time period you search. So this report could come in handy, for example, if you're searching for calendar year 2020, how many hours did my employee meet their 24-hour need? You can put in the dates, search for that year, and then run the report. And to run it, you just click the dates and click Generate Report, and it'll spit out the information as you see on the screen here. And that's the aggregate contact hours. The next one we have is the events offered by the Ncdss. As we mentioned a little bit earlier, this is the report that does not include online on-demand courses, but this includes events offered specifically by the North Carolina DSS. So in this report, we've got the same information, first name and last name of all your employees, their supervisor, the title of their training, first and last day of training. Training sometimes can take place over the course of a week or two, some pre-service over a span of time. So it's the beginning and end of that event. It's going to give you pre-event status and post-event status. That's going to be able to tell you whether or not the worker completed it. To give you a little bit of information about some of these statuses, for example, a status of canceled that you sometimes see for pre-event status. That means that the participant was registered and then before the event began, went into their PLP or went into their record and canceled their registration. So that's a participant initiated status right there. They canceled. Perhaps you have a worker who was signed up for a training, then they had a court date or somewhere they had to be on that day. They knew they were no longer going to be there. So they went in and before the event started, clicked cancel registration. That canceled it. So the pre-event status is canceled. The post-event is not applicable anymore because they had already canceled the registration and it didn't complete. The post-event statuses, those, for example, sometimes you'll see not specified. If you ever see not specified on someone's training attendance history, that's typically because an event has just ended or is almost ending, hasn't ended yet, and the registrar has not updated the statuses for the event. So if the event's already over and you're still seeing not specified, it simply could be because final work for any assignments or any final activities haven't been done and the registrar simply hasn't changed the post-event status. There's incomplete and complete. And you can see the other pre-event statuses such as enrolled. So enrolled and complete, they enrolled in it, they completed the training. This next one here, they enrolled and there's a not specified, so that event's still ongoing or the registrar hasn't finalized the post-event status. So this report gives you all this information about training title and pre and post-event statuses. Our third report is the training titles report. So what this report's going to give you is the same information: first name, last name of the workers, the supervisor for that worker, and then the training titles that they took. Now this one will include online on-demand courses. It also includes training through NCSW Learn, as well as the non-DSS training that's been entered. And then we have here the training hours for each of those courses on the right-hand side. So the training titles includes any training entered into the training attendance history, both DSS and non-DSS, as well as the online on-demand. Now here, this is the same report that we were just on. I'll click back to it. This is the training titles report run for the same date span, January 1st, 2021 to June 21st. And what I've done is I wanted to just show a quick example of how all of these titles, all of these columns in all three reports are sortable. So a simple click will let you sort ascending or descending if you'd like to put things in order. For example, if you'd like to put things in order by contact hours so that you can see who has the most versus the least. If you'd like to put things in order by training title so that you can easily alphabetically get to things and review who's taken what course. For example, on this page right now, I've simply clicked training title and I've sorted it alphabetically starting with A. So every single column that comes up in these reports is sortable via a quick click. So you can sort by last name, first name. You could, if you're a county training manager or regional child welfare consultant, you can sort by supervisor. So those are all options to you to hopefully make the reporting feature a little bit easier, cleaner, and simpler to use. And besides sorting, there's also a search feature. There's a search bar in the upper right-hand corner for any reports that you run. So for this example, I've gone ahead and I had my training titles already sorted by alphabetical order. And then I thought, well, I entered that critical thinking training for my employees. I wonder if anyone else has taken that. So this example allows you to see that there's a search feature. So if you have a specific training or specific course title, or perhaps just a specific employee that you need to drill down on and look at their records for, the search bar is where you would go to type in any additional information to clear up the report and to pinpoint what you're looking for. So I've used just the word critical in this example, and that's given me both critical thinking, as you can see here, which is different from critical thinking in child welfare, of course, for supervisors. That critical thinking at the top of the list is the exact same as the one that I entered for my employees, where I entered a non-DSS training with 3 credit hours. So this employee under Crystalle attended that same training in Wrightsville Beach, got their 3 hours, and it was entered into the system. These other workers had a training through NCSW Learn that had 2 contact hours. So it was a different training. But you can use the search tool however you still see fit. If it's easier to look at employees individually that way, you can simply run your entire county or run your entire list of supervisees and then use the search feature to pinpoint different information. So like I said, with the reports, we've got 3 reports. I'll click back through them real quick just to give you a quick run back through. The aggregate contact hours. For contact hours, that includes all the trainings that are taken by your employees. Events offered by the North Carolina DSS. This is the one that does not include online on demand, but it has first name, last name, training titles, days of training, the pre and post event statuses. The training titles report, where it includes all the trainings that have been entered. And then, like I said, all of these columns are sortable and searchable. So anything you need to look for, you can sort it and search it via the reports. And now this last slide, if you're taking a look at, there were features on the reporting page, some of you might have noticed, where we have these Excel, CSV, PDF, copy, and print buttons. Once you've run your report, there may be times where you need to print the report. You need to export the report to some type of document so that you can send to someone else. Perhaps you like working in Excel, or you know a lot about Excel and you want to run a report, and then you want to use Excel to clean it up however you see fit, or to prepare a presentation, or to prepare another report on your own. All of the reports can be exported in these various ways. So these are just a couple quick examples to give you a look at what can be done. You can report it, you can export to Excel, you can export to a PDF, you can export to a CSV, I believe that's comma separated values, if I remember correctly. You can print the reports, or you can simply copy. So you can click copy, and copy will copy all the data that you've run to your clipboard, and then you can paste it wherever you like. So that's completely up to you. But so there's multiple ways to export the data out of NCSW Learn so you can download it and have your own copy for it. So run any report, export any report, and save it in these various formats for you to have. So that's the end of the reporting feature. We've gotten to our Q&A period. So what I'm going to do is, we've been accumulating some of the questions that you guys have put in that I wasn't able to address sort of in real time, or ones that came in via the chat pod. So I'm going to go ahead and go through. If any of you have had any questions that came up just through the presentation, please send them into the chat pod now. You can just send them to the general meeting. My coworker, Vilma Jimenez, she's going to be compiling them and sending them back out to me so that I can address any ones that you guys have. Will also be, if there's any questions that come up during this webinar that either I don't have an immediate answer to, or that Holly or Crystalle might need some more background information about, we'll compile those and have those as a FAQ document along with the recording. So those will be available to you all for any questions that we don't get to or aren't able to answer today. So there was a question that came in regarding submitting a change in supervisor. Someone had asked, does that send an email to the previous supervisor for verification? The answer to that question is no. For supervisor change requests, we receive the request that someone has asked to become someone's supervisor. And then once we check the system to ensure there aren't multiple names and that someone maybe accidentally picked the wrong Linda Smith and is trying to move them to their agency, we'll double check on that. And then once we approve it, it simply sends the supervisor change request to the new supervisor that it's been approved. The previous supervisor isn't notified that the approval has been made. So one other question we have is, will employees still be able to add non-DSS training themselves as well? The answer to that is yes. You've always, on an individual level, in your own training attendance history as a worker, there is an add training button at the bottom of your training attendance history page. It's a gray button that has allowed you, for as long as the system has been up, to add any training you like there. The same stipulations apply. It's one where we want you to get approval from your supervisor or director before you put training in there, just in case, to make sure that training is approved and will actually be applied to your 24 continuing ed hours. So to make sure that goes in properly, you want to always double check before you enter it, but it's available on an individual basis. This tool, the bulk tool, is to hopefully expedite trainings that happen for large groups of people in counties, or if all your employees take the same training together, you're able to go in as a supervisor, update all their histories real quick, and it doesn't have to be done on an individual basis. But yeah, at any point in time, if a worker takes training outside the agency and they want to put it in, just to have them make sure they remember the title of the instructor and how many credit hours, they can enter that individually on their training attendance history page. At the bottom of the page, there's a gray add training button. So that hasn't changed at all. Let's see, there was a question that came in about viewing reports by a certain worker instead of seeing everyone under you. That's the search bar is ideally going to show that. If you're a supervisor or a county training manager, there's no way to immediately filter only to one employee. But once you run your report, if you use the search bar and type that person's name in, you can whittle the report down to where it's only going to show that individual. If it's only one individual that you know you're going to be looking at from the beginning, you can use the employee training attendance history page drop-down menu and just select that user and not use the reporting feature if you're just checking on one individual. But the report feature allows you to search. So as you run that search, you're gonna always be presented with all your employees first, but then using the search bar to whittle it down via first name and or last name will allow you to do that and get it on an individual basis. And then you can export it if you like. Let's see. So another question, is there a way for the director to see training for all social workers and supervisors without having to go in and add each employee individually? So the answer to that is yes. So as a CTM or a county training manager user, they'll be able to use the aggregated training records feature. So you'll be able to see all social workers and supervisors. So the county training manager, you can think of it as the data they're allowed to see as a county training manager is all county DSS workers, adult services and child welfare via that record feature. So they're going to be able to see everyone. And then if you needed to drill down on certain supervisors or workers, you can use the search bar, but that's available to all of them with the CTM access. Let's see. How is the pre-event status of not applicable determined? So the not applicable is always going to be a post-event status. So pre-event statuses we have are things such as waiting list, event full, canceled. Not applicable is always going to be a post-event status. So if it's not applicable, it's going to be a post-event because that simply means that the event hasn't ended or the registrar hasn't finalized that. Pre-event status, we have specific statuses for pre-event no matter what. There was another question about, as a county training manager, can you filter for adult services versus child welfare? The answer right now is no. But that's a question like that is something as we upgrade and do things, having that feature may be something in the future. So I'll make a note of that, that's something that came up. But right now, there's no way to filter out adult versus child welfare. One tip we have sometimes is if you know certain trainings that are specific to adult services workers versus child welfare, you can use the search feature in reports to put in adult services or child welfare training that may help you whittle down. But we know in some agencies, there may be people wearing multiple hats working across both those areas. Another question, let's see, how to register a new hire for pre-service if they don't have a county email address yet. So that question with registering a new hire for pre-service, they don't have a county email yet. If you add personnel into the system, creating a personnel record, initially, what I've recommended in the past is if you know what their email will be, for example, if you know that your agency's nomenclature is first name, period, last name, @ and then your county's email handle, putting in that email will allow you to go ahead and put that in and start the record. You can register them for pre-service with just that email. If their email isn't functioning yet, the registration can still be submitted. The system won't allow you to put your email in because the system won't allow duplicate emails in different records. So we don't ever want to have two records that have the same email so that notifications or registrations or things like that will go out into the system. So what we always recommend is if you know what their email is going to be, I would place an example of that in the work email because that'll still allow you to go through the registration process. And then once their email is active, they'll be able to use it. If at any point you need help with that, you can always reach out to the help desk as well, and we can double check it. And if any registrations are submitted and you'd like us to take a look and just double check that it went through, you can also do that as well through the help desk. There was a question about how to request to be a county training manager again. That request needs to come to the help desk at NCSW Learn. The email that you can type in, I'll go ahead and put it in the chat pod because it's ncswlearn@unc.edu. You'll contact me at the help desk and basically letting me know that you'd like access to the county training manager section of NCSW Learn. What we'll then do is we'll reach out to we'll need your director, your county director, to send an email to the help desk and request that you be granted that access. Since it is access to all employees for the county, we'll need the director's sign off. So basically all that needs to be is an email stating, "Hi, I'm the director of insert your county here. I'd like for first name, last name to have access to the county training manager section," and then we'll go ahead and add it. And once we add you, we'll send instructions about the new features available to you, what you'll be able to see, and answer any other questions you have. So ncswlearn@unc.edu, or just go through the help desk link that you can find on ncswlearn.org, and we'll be happy to help you guys get set up with the county training manager access. Let's see. Oh yeah, and yeah, just a follow up too for that registration without an email. Registrations can be even submitted without an email, so you don't have to worry about entering your email in to fill out that field. The registration can go through with no email, or you can simply create the sort of dummy account if you know what the email is going to look like. So another question we had come in was, how do we enter bulk for all employees except for 1 or 2 who did not attend? So I can actually click back right quick for our example slide just to show you. It's going to be using the control key on your keyboard and your mouse. So for example, you should be able to see my cursor on the screen. I'm going to hold down the control key and then I'm going to click on Brian Burbank's name. And what you're going to see is a highlight. So in this example, I've already control clicked on Brian. I've scrolled down to Philip. I've control clicked. And then on Vilma, I've control clicked. Now, if you wanted to add more, you would simply click down your list, control click, control click, control click. Everyone who's got gray behind their name, everyone who's been highlighted, is going to then get this training information added to their record when I click add training. So if you have 15 people that were all attended a training, you would just simply control click, skip over those that didn't attend, and that would allow you to click on those names and add them individually. You can kind of test it out if you go into the tool and click around. You can try it, control click. Just be aware that letting go of control and then clicking on an individual name can wipe out the previous highlights. So as you're clicking, if you want to be added to multiples, you got to hold down control and click. But once you do it once or twice, it's pretty easy to use that function. Let's see. We had another question regarding assigning multiple CTMs. Can a director choose which employees? For that feature right now, the choosing employees assigned to a CTM isn't available. The county training manager is designed to simply see the entire county. So we don't have any way to cordon off sections of the county to each individual CTM. So if you have 2 county training managers for your county, when they run reports, they're going to see all the employees, adult and child welfare services for your county. One thing we would suggest is you could, if you run your reports and if you know which employees or which section, perhaps which employees are supervised by whom that you need to be looking at, if they're cordoned off that way, you would be able to use the search feature to search via supervisor. That may be a way to compartmentalize what county training managers are looking at. I don't know if it's on a county by county basis and case by case basis, but the search tool can be kind of handy for manipulating the report data. So if you wanted to only look at supervisors with last name A through Z or A through J, you could use the search tool and export it, and then the other county training manager could use the search feature that way. Let's see. Supervisors receiving an email indicating an employee has been registered, accepted for a training. Right now, we have the only confirmation that supervisors get regarding training is regarding pre-service. That's typically because pre-service has a lot of upfront instructions that the supervisor needs to hand off to their new worker and things that way. So that's pre-service is the training that initiates an email and information being sent to the supervisor once they're registered. Other trainings we have don't initiate an email to supervisors. In the past, we've had supervisors that noted that with frequent registrations for lots of employees, it became a little bit of a bulk email situation that they would either skip over or get a little inundated with. So they requested that the emails be winnowed down a little bit. So we removed that feature. For any registrations, like we were showing with, I can show that in one of our training reports, with pre and post event statuses. This could be a good way if you're wondering if an employee has been registered for a training. That's where pre-event status could come in handy. You could simply use the report feature and search for that employee and get a quick look at either training they've done as well as upcoming training. So if a training is they're enrolled but not specified, you at least can get confirmation they've been enrolled in that training. You can look at individual training attendance histories as well. You don't have to use the reporting feature, but if you go to your employee's training attendance history page, current active registrations are available in there as well. It's not just trainings that they've taken and completed or not completed. So you'll be able to check there as well, since you won't be receiving an email. So yeah, so checking that way is always handy if you have a specific employee. Or you could use the reports feature. You could go into events offered by NCDSS. You could run your report for your employees and use the search bar, and you could search simply for the word enrolled, and that would give you a real quick snapshot of all employees who are currently enrolled in trainings. You would probably see a lot of enrolled and not specified for post-event, but that would let you know they're enrolled, the training isn't over or hasn't begun yet, and they are in that training. So that's a quick trick for searching it en masse. I appreciate all the questions. Questions are always good. I like to make sure that, you all are getting your questions answered, and I can sort of note all these for things as we continue with future phases on NCSW Learn with the upgrade. Yeah, we got another question about the pre and post event statuses. So one of those, regarding the canceled status, I did mention that was essentially a participant initiated or a worker initiated status. That means they went in and preemptively canceled their registration due to something coming up. They weren't going to be able to attend, so they canceled and removed that registration. With pre-event status, if the event itself is not held, we actually have a status known as event not held. So if an event is canceled because of weather or flooding or a hurricane or snow, things like that, you'll see a pre-event status of event not held. So that's one way you could check. You could use the reporting tool if you have a worker who is is unable to make a training and you want to double check, was it the employee who canceled it or was it the event not held? That's where you'll see that. So pre-event status of event not held is what we use to determine that. And then just a little bit more information for the not applicable. Not applicable, like we said, is always a post-event status. So you'll never see not applicable for pre-event. Pre-event status, waiting list, event full, canceled. That's where that'll be, and cancel and not applicable is always post-event. So. And we just got a few questions about in-person training. That's a policy question. That's one that I don't know off the top of my head. I'll be free to open that one up to either Holly or Crystalle. I don't want to, but that one, yeah, asking a couple people we've had ask, whether, when, or where the possibility of in-person training.
Hey, this is Crystalle. So some things are going in person. We have recently updated the homepage on NCSW Learn. So specifically, I can tell you that the TIPS MAP courses are coming back. They are going to be in person. We're looking at domestic violence going back in person, building cultural safety, and then beginning in September 2021, stepping into supervision will be going back in person as well. Other than that, everything else is continuing to be virtual through December 31st.
Thanks so much, Crystalle. So yeah. So let's see. So I think I was able to see the questions that got placed in. If you have any questions, like I said, there's an email address there, the ncswlearn@unc.edu, for those of you who had asked about how do I become a county training manager and get those access rights. If after this you have any questions that you think, oh, I wish I would have asked this, you could send that to the help desk. Or if you need to reach out to Crystalle or Holly, I appreciate them being here today to be back up for any questions that come in that I was unable to answer. That's their contact information there on the screen. And that'll be in the handouts we sent as well. So if you need to reach out to any of us about anything that came up in the webinar today,